Hey guys, Colleen here, DIYer behind LemonThistle.com, and today I'm excited to be sharing a ton of holiday DIYs and decor pieces using things that I found at the dollar store. I am sharing this video as part of the DIY Mummies Holiday DIY and Decor Challenge. I will link that playlist below, so if you are looking for more holiday DIY and decor inspiration, that's a really great place to start. You guys, I feel like I really scored at the dollar store this year. All these items are from Dollarama, and I mean, look at this. I made this wreath out of dollar store garlands. It's so stinking pretty. Like, that's going on my door for sure. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I made a total of 7 different DIY decor pieces, so let's share them. I love when I can take really affordable items and DIY them into gorgeous home decor that fits with my home style. I feel like I've cheated the system when we can make dollar store items look really amazing. Before we get into it, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I would so love if you did that below so you don't miss out on any more DIY or home decor videos.
All right, so my haul from the dollar store was pretty good. I got all these things from Dollarama. Their greenery selection for Christmas was super beautiful this year. All right, the first thing that I made is these paper bag snowflakes, but make them mini. These tiny, cute little paper bags were in the craft section. They were meant for like party favors, I think, or something like that. I'm not too sure. But if you are on Instagram and look at home decor stuff, I am sure that you have seen these paper bag snowflakes are super popular this year, but like big. And so when I saw these tiny paper bags, I knew I wanted to try it myself. So to make them, you just glue together the bags. So you draw a line down the center of your paper bag and then a line across the bottom, and then you stick the next one on top. And you do this until you have 8 or so paper bags, but with the tiny ones, I found that I needed 10 to get the entire star just because they weren't as large. After you glue them together, you can cut the end to a point. This is the end that does not have the folds in it. And then you can also cut out little notches from the sides to make them look like a snowflake. I found this really, really difficult to do, even with great scissors. So for the next snowflakes that I made, I just cut out 5 at a time, then glued the next 5 on top, and then cut out that half separately. This made it a lot easier to make the cuts. If you are struggling with this, you could even cut out each bag individually, or like every 2 or 3 bags or something like that. These turned out really cute. I was hoping to get more snowflakes out of these packs. The bags come in packs of 10, and I thought that if I bought 2 packs, I'd be able to get 3 snowflakes in each color, but I was only able to get 2 with having to do more bags per snowflakes. The larger bags, they say that you can do 6 to 8 bags per snowflake, and so I was thinking the numbers would be the same, but you definitely needed more with the smaller bags. So I might go back and buy more of these because I am in love with how they look on my Christmas tree. They are much smaller than the bigger snowflakes, but they still are big on a Christmas tree, and they make such a statement, and they're super cute. They kind of give me boho feels. Okay, next up, this DIY is super time consuming, but it's also really, really pretty. This furry yarn, I guess you would call it, was in the craft section as well. And I decided to make a Pom Pom Garland out of it because I have been eyeing some, but they are just so expensive when I know that I could make my own. So I used a pom pom maker for this. If you don't have a pom-pom maker, that's just fine. You can make pom-poms just using your hand. I'll show you how I do that here in a second. But using the pom-pom maker, this is the first time I've ever used it. It definitely made more consistently sized pom-poms, and I was able to tie the pom-poms a lot tighter, so I lost a lot less strings, which is really important for this because this fake fur is slippery as all get out. It's also super duper messy. So my whole house, I feel like, is covered in fur. So you have to really want the pom-poms for this one because you're going to have to vacuum and spend a lot of time tying pom-poms. But to me, it was worth it because these pom-poms are adorable. They just add such fun texture to my tree. I might go back and get more so that I can fill my tree up a little bit more as well. My whole Christmas tree is just going to be dollar store DIYs by the end of this. Okay, so here I'm showing how you can make a pom-pom just on your hand. You just wind the yarn around your hand, over and over and over until you get a thick amount of yarn, and then you can pull it off of your hand and tie a knot in the center of it to hold that little bundle together. Then you use your scissors to trim the loops, and then you kind of fluff it out and trim around the edges to make it more of a ball shape. But if you want consistent sized pom-poms every time, my pom-pom maker came in a set of 3 and it was like $6, so highly recommend. Then last but not least, I just took the pom-poms and tied them right on to another piece of this yarn string stuff that's furry and very slippery. If you wanted your pom-poms to stay evenly spaced, then you could also hot glue them in place. I wasn't too worried about it because then I thought I could readjust them on the tree to exactly where I wanted them. Okay, next up, this is a DIY that I have done every year. I'm obsessed with it. I really, really love it. Craft paper is super affordable, and I love how easily customizable it is, and this is my favorite way to use it. This brush pen is actually from one of the dollar stores in town. It's not from Dollarama, but you can find brush pens at almost every dollar store now. And I love to letter lyrics from holiday songs or, classic Christmas words all over a wrapping paper, and then I love to wrap my gifts in it. I love how it looks like wrapping paper, but it is totally personalized and just super beautiful. For wrapping this present, I'm actually using double-sided tape from the dollar store as well, mostly because it's what I have on hand. But if you want your presents to look amazing, highly recommend some double-sided tape. Next, I'm tying it up with a ribbon and then using these free printable tags that I shared on my blog earlier this week. I will pop the link for those down in the description box if you want to get them. There's 4 different hand-lettered tags and you can just print those off and attach them to your gift. All right, next up, a DIY for your kitchen. So these are just standard cork trivets or hot pots or whatever you want to call them. And we use exclusively these cork ones in our house. I don't know why we started, but I love them. And I love decorating them. I've done this before with some like punny sayings. I can link to that DIY video down before, but I thought that I'd make some holiday ones. And so I painted the first one with a snowflake, and I mean, it's pretty good. It's not amazing. I tried to use craft paint because I thought that it would go a little bit faster, but I went back to my tried and true paint marker for the second one. The second one here, I used a gray paint marker and I did 2 coats of that and it just wasn't popping enough. So I went over and added a inline of a white paint marker, and I really love how that pops. I lettered Let It Snow on here with some little stars around it, and it turned out so pretty. So I did just freehand this. You could definitely use a template and kind of stencil it on as well. If you want more tips on hand lettering, I have a free quick start guide to brush lettering. I will leave a link to that down below. If you are wondering about the durability of the paint with hot pots, we have painted these cork trivets before, and I've been using them for months and months and months with hot pots all the time, every day, and I have never had any issues. I'm not saying that there is no chance of issues, but in my experience, they work pretty darn well, and they look cute. Okay, next up are these little macrame ornaments. So I found these wooden hoops in the craft section again, and I mean, they were adorable, so of course I had to buy them. And macrame is one of my favorite crafts to do. It's kind of mindless and really fun to do in front of the TV. But I just made 3 different simple ones here, and I am using a cotton cord that I have, but you can also get like the turkey twine from the dollar store. It's just cotton, string cotton, just exactly like this, just a little bit thinner. And I've used that for macrame projects before. I will link one down below if you want to see exactly what that looks like. I just have a huge spool of this on hand, so I used what I had. The knots that I'm using for these macrame ornaments are really simple. I stuck to the basics. If you want to learn how to macrame, I have a beginner tutorial that goes over these knots in like full step-by-step troubleshooting. It's very clear. So I attached all the strings to the hoops using a lark's head knot. And then on this first one here, I tied a square knot with the middle 4 cords, and then I am using a double half hitch to make a V and tie it in the center right underneath that square knot. If the names of these knots are confusing you or you don't know what they are, please watch that beginner video. It's super clear and it will definitely help you wrap your head around macrame and get started making projects of your own. I kept these really simple, so once your knots are tied, you can cut the strings. I cut them in a kind of V shape, and then you can comb out the bottoms if you want them to be super fluffy. I find that the least enjoyable part of macrame, so I usually skimp on that. But know that you can make them as fluffy and beautiful as you want. The next one that I did here is all about those square knots. It is just square knots upon square knots. So I started with doing square knots in the strings. I used the right 4 strings to do a square knot and the left 4 strings to do a square knot. And then I took the middle 4 strings and I used those to do a square knot. And I alternated a bit and ended with a square knot in the middle just to make kind of like a little pennant. So this ornament is just a total of 6 square knots. And then again, I cut it in a V-shaped, and this one I didn't even bother combing out. Not even with my fingers. Okay, last but not least, I wanted to do kind of an asymmetrical one. So this one I'm just using a double half hitch and I am traveling on a downward diagonal. And once again, these knots, super basic, are in my beginner's macrame video. But yeah, they're super cute. They turned out great. I'm going to use the rest of the wooden hoops to make more ornaments for my tree, and I might even work my way up to combing out the bottoms of all of them to make them nice and fluffy. Okay, next up, I'm super disappointed that I missed recording the beginning of this. My memory card ran out of storage. So this is actually just like a serving tray, a metal serving tray. It had a Santa on it, and I am just painting it white. I saw Christina from the DIY Mommy do something similar with like a stove burner cover, and this was just a bigger version of that, and I thought, man, perfect base for a sign. So I am painting it white. It took a few coats to get it in nice, beautiful, even coverage. But then once it was totally dry, I went ahead and I lettered on it using my favorite black paint marker, which is not from the dollar store, but if you love writing on things with paint markers, you should definitely check out Montana markers. They're my very favorite. I wrote Oh Holy Night on this one and of course added some stars and once again freehanded. I have a free quick start guide to brush lettering. If you want to learn how to brush letter, I will leave a link to that down below. And then after I lettered Oh Holy Night, I went ahead and I broke up one of those picks from the dollar store. These picks with a bunch of different greenery on it are a bunch of other wires, and they're just wrapped together with like a paper kind of tape. So you can go ahead and cut that tape off, and then you can separate all the wires so that you can glue the individual pieces on to your sign and rearrange them as you see fit. I just used hot glue for this, and I always arrange it first before I start hot gluing so that I know where I want them to go. Once I was done this, I flipped it over and used a ribbon and some hot glue to attach to the back for a hanger. Okay, next up is this wreath out of garlands. I am so in love with it. So my very favorite wreath that I have ever made is just made from 2 garlands that I got 5 Christmases ago, and I still use that wreath every single year, and I adore it. So when I saw these garlands that were kind of sparse but really beautiful, I thought, well, I'm going to get a few of them and I'm going to make myself a new Christmas wreath. So all you need to do for this is to shape the garlands into the size of wreath you want and then kind of wrap the wired pieces around each other so that it holds together really well. Why I love using garlands, especially sparse garlands like this, for wreaths is so that they're not quite as bulky as typical wreaths. The inside of my entryway door, I love to have a wreath on because you can see the shadow from the wreath outside because it's a big old window door. But that door opens into another door, and if I have a big giant wreath, they hit together and there's less space to move around in the entryway. Plus it's a little bit more minimal, so aesthetically I like the style of it. This took only a few minutes, and you guys, I'm obsessed with it. I've actually been looking for a new wreath for my entryway for a little while because I only had one for the holidays, and like I said, I really wanted one on the inside as well as the outside. And I have been looking everywhere and I haven't found one that I'm in love with, but this cost less than $10 and is so beautiful. I'm so happy with it. Definite dollar store win. Here is just a little decor update. So I found this really cute frosted looking holiday plant, but it was in just a very plain light gray planter, and I didn't love that. So I am using a Stone Effect spray paint when I was spray painting some other things, and so I used that Stone Effect spray paint to give it some texture, and after a couple coats it became clear to me that this was not going to give the coverage that I wanted color-wise, so I went over that with a chalkboard spray paint. It's just what I had on hand, and I really love how it turned out. I'm going to use this effect on so many things. The texture is so good, but it's still black, which I love. It completely changed the feel of this little planter.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss any more DIY or home decor videos. I have a link in the playlist below, so if you'd like to check out more from the DIY Mummies Holiday DIY and Decor Challenge, you can do that.